This is Sean Crystal. Catch the Inkpulp Podcast on Pharcyde TV Wednesdays at noon Pacific Time, 3 o'clock Eastern Time. Come hang. Peace. That way, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, we can. What do you call it, buddy? I mean, I started now. Let's see if I don't mess it up too badly. What do you think?
All right, let's give it a try.
All right, here we go. Let me hit the right button.
You just did it.
Oh, I know, but I forgot already. Let's go.
Here it comes.
Look how fancy you are.
All right.
Look how fancy that is.
I hope there's sound in the recording because I hear nothing.
Oh, I hope so too.
But if you heard it, I guess there is.
I did. I thought I did.
All right, then we're good.
All right, here we are again. One more time. As you try to adjust around, what are you doing?
Just checking my camera out.
What's the better?
There.
What are you going for? What are you opting for in that shot?
I'm trying to put myself a little off center.
You want to give yourself a little bit of a framing element that is the microphone and.
Yes, sir.
All right.
The compositional
Fancy
shift.
Pants. I don't even know why we keep doing this, man. All right. It is for people who don't know, it's a beautiful Sunday morning.
Saturday.
Saturday morning. I'm already way ahead of myself. I'm trying to get through the
Off to a good start. All right.
Shawn and I wanted to get together because our schedules are about to get super crazy between him and his travels and me and my work and also traveling. So we wanted to bang a couple of these. So if you see a similarity between the one that we did, day before and today, it's because these are relatively, there's a short amount of time between that one and this one.
Yeah, but what similarity would they see?
Maybe my glasses, maybe the scar on my forehead. I don't know.
You have a scar on your forehead?
No, I'm just saying if they see something like that, they're like,
okay.
That's especially this thing from a couple days ago. Do you release these in order?
Yes, I do.
All right. So it's effectively just like a video diary of us just chit chatting.
Yeah, but I've got something I want to run by you.
You're running.
So I figured it'll be a good discussion today. So I've realized I tend to come up with ideas in my head.
Yeah.
And just follow them almost maybe stubbornly without listening to the feedback whatever I'm doing is giving me. And I don't bounce ideas off people, and I end up having too many things going on that aren't working.
All
so
right.
I have an idea.
Give me an example. What have you done in the past that you're like, I like that, you stubbornly moved forward? Hey, listen.
Yeah.
Before I don't want to like completely derail the conversation.
Okay.
But oh my gosh, your forehead is like really high. Like there's a lot of extra forehead.
Is that better? Or are you talking about my receding hairline, or are you talking about my frame?
It's just helping to exemplify how truly high your forehead is between eyebrow line to like. Anyway, continue.
Well, what was the point?
Right, give me an example.
What was the purpose of that?
I don't know.
Just to take a shot?
I know. It's just the first time that I'd ever taken note. I mean, when you and I are hanging out.
Oh, I got a haircut. That's probably what you're seeing. I got a haircut.
All right.
So it's really short everywhere.
Okay. Well, it looks good on you, but ooh, that's a lot of forehead. Continue. What do you
want? What do you want me to do, Eric? You want me to shave it? Shave it all? Take it all down?
No, don't do that. Don't do that. That's my brand, not yours. Continue. What were you saying? Stubbornly moving forward.
Yes.
Things without checking in or like whatever, running it by. Who's your inner counsel that you run things by?
That's my problem.
You don't have an inner counsel?
I do. I've you, which I should use. I mean, you're a good counsel person, but I don't.
I oftentimes ignore. Anytime that you ask me for advice, I often like hit the ignore or like do not notify function on my phone.
My point is, I don't.
Okay.
And I didn't know people did until maybe more recently.
How did you get to 50 without?
I don't know, Eric. This is what's happening as I turn 50. I have a lot of questions about how did I make it here, being so.
Listen, I'm giving you a hard time.
But there's some truth. There's some truth.
Yeah, well, it's probably because it's harder for me to relate. My wife is a creative, who effectively works in the same field as I do, illustration and storytelling and comics, right? She has a background in it. So it comes off naturally to me to be able to turn to her and be like, hey, what do you think of this? Should I ever need a sounding board? But there was that mechanism might not be readily available to you. So you turn to numbskulls like me.
Well, I realized this. At a very young age, my parents' time and energy became completely consumed by my sister.
Oh,
and my brother and I have kind of realized what that meant for us. And what it meant was we were left to our own devices for a lot of things. And so I think I just learned at a very young age, don't ask anyone for help. You have to take care of it. You have to figure it out. And I think that's why I have a lot of the stuff going on that's going on.
I'm going to say something very embarrassing to you.
Go ahead.
I knew about your sister. We've never discussed her at length, but on more than a handful of occasions, you've mentioned her to me.
Yeah.
I never knew you had a brother.
And again, this gets back to what I'm saying, is I also think I believed that whatever I was interested in wasn't important. And I mean, this is something, like, I'm going through all this now, all this uncovering in my head. And
We've known each other for almost 2 plus, going on 3 decades now. And I never knew that you had a brother. What is that?
Really? I never, I mean, I
okay, 2 things. 1, maybe you never mentioned it. Right?
Uh-huh.
2, you mentioned it multiple times, and typical of me, when you start droning on, I just checked out of the conversation.
Okay.
So, or it could be a combination of both. You know what I mean? Like, you could have been, oh, my brother this, my brother that, my sister this, my sister that, and I just like, oh my God, this has nothing to do with something that I'm interested in. Just nod your head.
Okay. All right. Okay, fair enough.
All right. So your point is,
so in one scenario, I'm the asshole. In the other scenario, you're the asshole.
How is that?
I'm the asshole for not talking about my family life, and you're the asshole for not paying attention.
I think it's more the second one. I think you're very open. You've never been sort of like, hey, I keep my family, I've guarded. No. You
know all about my wife and kids and stuff. But beyond that, I mean, sure, maybe it's possible. I just never mentioned it. I don't know why.
Yeah. I think just by way of like, my level of care, I prioritized your wife and kids. And I was like, I've never met his brother nor sister, so I'm just like, I don't care enough about that. Anyway, it is to say that, like, you mentioned that, you came up with this thing, your way of conduct, because it was never sort of in your procedure at home. It just became a thing where you're like, I don't ask for help because I was sort of asked to sustain on my own, as my parents focused primarily on my sister.
Yeah, and they also there was a lack of interest in my interests and a lack of interest in my brother's interests because of the same thing. So I think all of that led me down the road I am, where I'm stumbling around trying to make a life for myself.
I get that. Well, here's the thing. Like, without going into too much detail, I think my wife can relate fairly heavily from your position. I don't know the nuances of where you're coming from, but from my wife's end, she has a younger brother who has autism.
Yes.
Functioning, right?
Yes.
But certainly needed the extra TLC from both her parents, because can you imagine the sort of the onslaught, the deluge of like things that they need to now adjust in their life in order to make sure that they take care of her brother. Now, to that end, they did what they could for her, but even to this day, she has issues with it. She can, like, to my point, she can relate to you. It's like, oh, I was
Right.
made to sort of not raise myself per se, but certainly be more self-reliant as the years
Yeah.
went on.
Yeah. And I'm sure she had a lot of responsibility thrust onto her.
Yeah, I think it was less about. I mean, yeah, I suspect that it is, but it was more about like the point that you're trying to make, which is one never really developing the craft to communicate well, in enough so to say, hey, I need help with something. I need guidance on something.
Right. Right.
The expectation was almost, on to her to go figure things out. And sometimes
Right.
she just didn't know how to ask for help because it was never like,
Right.
hey, this is how you do it, right?
Right.
So I think
And
that's similar
that is
to what you're coming from.
absolutely, and that's probably why I never even thought to have counsel. Who do you? I assume you have. Who do you counsel with?
Let's see. Earlier in my life, my immediate family. I was an only child. My mom came to the United States early to establish a life for us here. I had cousins that were either a little bit older than me, but in the Philippines, everybody raises you. So I was around many aunts, many cousins, and that I used them as a point of reference.
Okay.
And then by the time I got to the United States, my stepfather, who was very I thought the world of him. He was sort of my guide through a lot of acclimating to American culture. And then back when I was heavily involved in my church, my priest. And then when I got older, I think that's sort of I don't know, there are still people who I somehow don't immediately think, oh, that's a mentor of mine, or they don't hold that official capacity, right? But certainly I've used them as a point of reference, sort of like in most recent times, a guy by the name of Tim Lim, who's a colleague from Iconic Comics. He's very open to like, here's how you do this, here's how you make headway in this self-promotion and publishing and printing and in the indie space. So there's always been a person that I've somehow just ass backwards fell into as far as a point of reference and as a unofficial quote-unquote mentor. In animation days, it was like Peter Chung and the directors that I worked with. But those were kind of like inherent in their jobs, They're meant to teach and they're meant to guide and sort of help be formative in their advice. So
What's funny is that as you say that, I'm realizing in my teaching days, when I started at SCAD Atlanta, my job was with my friend to build this department and make it work. So we had no one there to even turn to. So I guess I've never, other than like having met you and some friends, had that. That or even knew that it would be good to have. I don't even think I knew like how important that was to have in your life.
I mean, I don't know if people have the kind of mentorship in whatever capacity, whether it be official or unofficial, how sort of like really profound that is, right?
Yeah, I'd imagine so.
Yeah, to have somebody who's not necessarily have 100% experience in that space, but some experience in the space, to be able to push you or at least point you in the right direction and say, hey, this worked for me. This may work for you, X, Y, and Z, So anyway, to your point, you come up with a plan, stubbornly move forward, then return to a group of people to say, hey, does this make sense?
No, I don't. I mean, I would have turned to you, and maybe I asked a couple times, and like I already kind of figured out it wasn't working. I was just double checking with you, but now I want to check in before I do it.
What's strange is that the reason why when people check in with me in that way, when they're like, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? Right? I think I'm not flippant. I'm not dismissive. The reason why I don't take it as seriously is because I never look at myself as, really fulfilling that role. Okay. Until somebody points it out to me and says, like, that you're actually doing this role. you know,
Right.
at work.
But you've been that role for a lot of our friends.
I know, but I don't think of myself as that. So that's why I'm just kind of like, you know what I mean? Like when somebody says, "Hey, you're like like let's say as a person is a mechanic, right?"
Mm-hmm.
When you turn to the mechanic, you're obviously asking for their expertise advice, their experience and learned advice, right? So they'll tell you, "Hey, do this, this, or this." But when it comes to you and me talking, right? Because I consider us equals, I just shrug my shoulder and be like, "That's fine," right?
Right.
Whereas at work, I understand my role there, and that's incumbent upon me in my job to occupy a mentor-like space.
Okay.
Right? It never used to be in my head until somebody straightened me out about it. So
Okay.
it is what I'm getting at is like sometimes when you reach out to me, I'm like, "Oh, Shawn will be fine," not realizing that actually it's probably going to need that extra level of engagement from me to be like, "Oh yeah, no, it's probably like this," you know.
Right.
To put on that sort of mentorship hat and be that much more careful and deliberate. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Totally.
Yeah.
So
That's another wordy way of me saying sometimes I just don't care about what you text me about. And I just
you've made that clear.
really just, fuck, dude, it's Thursday. Shawn's texting me. I'm gonna go.
Okay. So are you ready for this? Do you have
Let's
your hat
go.
on?
Let's go. Listen, you have my undivided attention, and that's completely like by accident because I can't hang up on this
Well,
call. It's
by
a bad
design
feeling.
for me.
Yeah.
So, all right. So I think a lot now. Or I'm starting to put into place, like looking at everything I've doing. Like we've talked on here, I am spending way too much time on too many things that have
Yeah.
little return. So I'm looking at everything like, what is the goal of this?
Yeah.
Because you've made it clear to me. I should understand that it's kind of
For sure.
important.
For sure.
So I looked at social media because I post usually twice a day on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and then I post once a week on YouTube. So I've got all these platforms that I'm spending a lot of time creating content for and putting up on there.
I'm
And
exhausted for you.
yeah, well, I'm not complaining. I've learned a lot from doing it, and
I didn't hear it from. I didn't say that out of complaint, or I didn't hear you complaining. Just the idea of like posting twice a day. But continue. I know how critical that can be.
Okay, so I know my goal. Like when I would call you and be like, I'm having trouble growing. I didn't talk about why I wanted to grow.
Sure.
I guess I assumed with a larger following, it would bring some financial success my way, some opportunities my way. And so I'm asking myself, what do I want from everything I'm doing? I've come up with 3 things that I think I need to fill 2 of the 3 in order to say this is worth my while. One is it giving me joy?
All right.
2 is it creatively fulfilling? 3 is it financially worth my time? Or is it actually I shouldn't say it that way. Is it financially fulfilling?
Okay.
So those are like my metrics that I've come up with since talking to you and learning about these sorts of things. So if I put social media through all my social media work through those metrics, I can say financially, I don't think it's done much for me. When I ran my Indiegogo and my Kickstarter, I remember the frustration I felt, especially with the Indiegogo for the launch of Inkpulp Instruction, the first episode.
Yeah.
The frustration I felt was I was posting incessantly about it and getting nothing in return from it. And I just was like, I'm just shouting to the same people over and over and over.
Exactly.
So I can say financially it's not doing much.
It wasn't
the other metric is it creatively fulfilling? Not terribly. I've learned a little bit about making videos,
Yes.
which is a little interesting to me. But the work I'm recording, the artwork I'm recording, is stuff I'd be doing whether or not I had social media. And
Yes.
the artwork I'm doing would actually be more creatively fulfilling if I didn't have to think about turning a camera on and off throughout the process of making it.
Yeah.
So there's that. Then the joy. I do get some joy out of connecting with people and hearing from people and seeing how posts or work I do is exciting or inspiring to others, or it's helping them learn a little bit about their craft. So along those lines, I'm like, well, this is I'm putting a lot of hours and energy into something that isn't performing to my metrics.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure having 1 million followers would change all of that all that much. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, like I've spent some time looking at people who have a lot of followers, and I look at the engagement they're getting, and it's like not that much better than the engagement I'm getting. And granted, they're not putting as much effort into it, but
Yes.
it just makes me think, like, is there a better way? So
Yeah.
I had an idea.
Okay.
So my idea is this. Okay, so let me backtrack. I was on TikTok, and I follow a few like entrepreneur business type TikToks.
Okay.
One is this music producer guy, like on the financial side of things, and he was talking about this very thing. And he had a female musician who had the numbers on Instagram and was posting a lot. She also did the Instagram model thing as well as her singing. I'd say the singing, I don't even know if that's really a career for her, but the Instagram model thing. So she's getting tons of likes and tons of followers, not much in the way of money. And she says to this guy, I'm giving away all my content for free.
Yes.
And my content has value.
Yes.
So what she did was she archived her Instagram except for like 5 posts. And she's never nude. She's always in a bikini or in lingerie or something.
Sure.
And so she opened an OnlyFans.
Sure.
So
I figured, or you're gonna have an OnlyFans soon. I can feel.
that's where I'm going, buddy. No, that's not where I'm going. So she opens an OnlyFans, and her Instagram just basically gives people a taste of what would be over there.
Uh-huh.
Within the first year, after 120 posts, she had made $56 million.
Right. On
So,
Instagram. Or just general.
no, on OnlyFans.
OnlyFans. Okay.
Okay, so I'm not going to OnlyFans. I'm not expecting to make $56
I
million.
think you are.
But what it made me think about was how can I make all this work for me? So I started thinking, all right, I do put out a lot of content, and I do think a lot of it is valuable because of the growth I'm having and the engagement I'm having. It's valuable to those people. So I thought about this. What if I open a Patreon?
Yes.
And I put all my social media energies into that, posting once a day there, really quality posts.
Okay.
But people have to pay to be on my Patreon. A small amount of money. I was thinking like $2 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And then on my social media, I'm not going to give it up. I think that would be silly. But instead of posting twice a day, once a week. And really curate the material I'm putting on there instead of just trying to fill the spaces. And therefore there's an archive of stuff on there, and once a week there's something new, but it can be very focused on an educational post, an art post, or whatever it is, and drive the traffic to where all the daily posting is, if you're into that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that way what I'd be doing is buying my time back and bringing in some money and having a platform where I can engage in a much more effective way with the people that want to engage with me.
Mm-hmm.
So if I look at the metrics, financially, it could be good.
Yes.
Artistically, maybe not much. It's stuff I'll be doing anyway, but I don't know. It's hard to say on that one. Joy, yeah, I said I had joy from the previous stuff, so I'll bring it over here. I probably have more joy here because there's less to do, less to worry about, and more time to focus on what I'm doing, and more energy can be put into it that way. So that's 2 out of 3. The other thing is, all of these platforms that we are using, they can go away quick. They can just become out of fashion or whatever. They can change. They're always changing things. And we are all giving them free content that makes them a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
So is there a way to use what they're doing that would bring some of that my way?
Yes.
And that way, if something like Instagram goes out of style, it doesn't hurt me. I mean, I look at like people whose whole career is built on like an Instagram or a TikTok platform. And if that platform dries up, they've got to start from scratch somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of thoughts. So my thought was not to just jump into this blindly like I normally would do, but to start building my Patreon now, but not open it. Just put one quality post up there a month until the end of the year to build it, and make sure, like, talk to people who have Patreon and make sure I'm using it right or using it well. And the posts I'm doing, I'll stand by. And then towards the end of the year, New Year, I open it up. Now, while I'm doing that, I'm going to back down my social media posting. Instead of twice a day, I'll do it once or twice a day, 3 days a week instead of 5 to 6 days a week.
Yeah.
And if this transition, and talk to people, let them know what's coming. And then when I make the transition, back down on the social media, the free social media, to once a week. So run that 3 hat.
Okay, so see how I was nodding that entire time and like
You didn't hear a word.
I didn't hear a fucking word that you just said.
You're the worst.
I just nodded, and there's a couple times when you made a pause, and like as a trick, I often go, That makes like
You're not.
I
We've got a half hour left. I did the first.
I'm just
half
kidding,
hour.
buddy. Don't do it. Don't go through it. I was actually listening. See how I actively listen, but also been managed to like do stuff on the side while I'm doing it. Okay, so you said you wanted to, after our first or our previous conversation, really identify a goal for yourself. Right? I want you to go through this exercise. You don't have to answer it right now. I want you to go through the exercise of asking yourself very critically and very honestly, to the point where you might even be embarrassed about the answer. Okay? Do you have the right goal? Just ask yourself that. Really put yourself through, like, is this the right goal for me to have? And if the answer is, shit, it's actually not the right goal, then really discover what that goal is. You don't have to answer it right now.
But I want to talk because this I did ask myself that, and the answers I came up with, again, I don't trust what my mind says entirely, so I want to run it by you. I think the goal, I think, sounds sound.
Yes.
Where I am right now, I need things to change. I can't continue living like this. I don't have any time, and I don't have any money. So it's not a way to live.
Yep.
So if it gives me some time back, and it gives me some money, then that seems okay. But it also, I think, allows me to give a deeper taste of Inkpulp instruction for the audience, and to try to get them involved with that as well.
Okay. You want to have some of your time back. The reason I'm trying to track your logic
Yeah, good luck.
You're saying, listen, I can't continue down the path that I'm at. It's not financial. It's not going to be either financially sustainable, psychologically sustainable. Not a good deal for me. So I need to find a way. If my time is valuable, I need to find a way to, at the very least, monetize in at whole or in part the time that I put into my art. Does that capture it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And your plan is to somehow take the time that you were putting into your social media that you were giving away for free, right? And somehow put less time into that and more time into putting your skills, your craft, whatever it is that you're offering behind a paywall, right? So in spirit, what that makes a lot of sense to me. Don't use the Instagram model because sex always sells. Right?
Well, like, right, and I meant to cage that. Like, I understand that. I mean, we're talking about sex.
I don't know if she's I don't know if there's a direct one-to-one there, right? Okay. But the spirit of it makes sense, which is don't give away for free what you can charge for people. So to that point, I wrote down this. By the way, I was taking notes. Okay. That's why you saw me looking at.
Okay.
And this is a harsh one. This is sort of like, again, that come to, really be honest with yourself, critically honest with yourself, and to say, and I wrote down here, what are you offering that is nuanced enough that people would want it?
Good question.
Right. And what is out there right now? What are you giving or asking of people that isn't out there right now being readily handed out for free?
Okay. So education.
Yes.
I'll be doing educational posts. Also,
but that's out there. That's free.
Okay.
Right. You can go into YouTube and figure out how to do, what do you call it? You can do anatomy. You can do backgrounds. You can do lighting. You can all of that is for free.
So then Inkpulp instruction, does that apply there as well?
Could be.
Oh boy.
Right. So that needs to be thought out. What are you offering that isn't readily available to somebody else? And here is a thought. You could leverage the fact that you have been doing these. You need to keep leveraging the fact that you used to do this for a living.
Yeah, as a teacher.
Just keep saying it.
Yes.
Just keep saying it until you're sick in the head, until everybody is sick of hearing it, because that's critically important. It comes from a learned, experienced place.
Okay.
Right? Do not let off the gas when it comes to that. Because similar to when people go like, hello, my name is so-and-so artist. I worked on X, Y, and Z movie. I worked on X, Y, and Z property. And I've been working for X amount of years. Do not hesitate to keep bringing that up, because that lands with people. It can get gross to people who are, in the same sort of like peer set as you. But for new people looking to get in, that's critical.
Okay.
That's important for them to know. This guy's not just talking out of his ass, and he's just not talking about like maybes. Right. This comes from an experienced, learned place. Now, you're going to get more than a handful of people like rolling their eyes, but those aren't your customers anyway.
No.
Right? Those are the kinds of people who are like, oh my gosh, Shawn's talking about how he taught at SCAD for X amount of years, how he's worked for Marvel for X amount of years, and how he's like been in the comic book industry for X amount of years, blah, blah. That's so like... that's so tired, that's so old. They're not your customers. Don't give a shit about them, right? Those people are not going to look in they're not the ones that are going to be signing up for your class or for your Patreon. They're not going to be the ones who are going to be looking at your information and seeing it as valuable, because they either they already have it, or they're not just tuned into that frequency. What you're looking for, the customer base that you're looking for. If you had 1,000 followers, your 10% return. The 100 people that you're looking for are the ones who are in that space, probably younger, right? Probably a little bit less experience, probably have zero experience, who are looking into I need to know how to start. What does starting look like for me? What does course 1 through 20, 1 through 30 look like for me?
And everything you're saying is exactly what I've been doing with instruction, with building a new platform.
You need to keep saying it. just
okay.
fucking get
Yeah.
sick about saying like,
Okay.
hey, this is for the beginner. This is for blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? This is definitely for those people. If you find that niche audience, and that's why I kind of, I underlined nuance, right? Nuance is important, right? The general populace is the example that you use, which is sex always sells. That's like the biggest bucket that you can put, that you can put under people, and everybody oftentimes fall into that. But if you find a niche audience, which is again that beginning, that starter, that thing, and they are passionate about, broadcasting on your behalf due to their version of success, that starts building. That starts the snowball going. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So,
but on that note, I don't know if I told you, I developed a level system now for instruction.
yeah, you're telling me.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah, but just be freaking deliberate about that. Right?
Okay.
And then the other one is the one that I have a personal passion against.
Which is
you need to take, you said something pretty interesting, which is 100% I believe in, which is like Instagram can go out of style, right? So you need to find a way, but so can Patreon.
right.
Don't do it. Don't do it on Patreon. Because Patreon can also be like, hey, we don't like your content, we don't like blah, whatever it is. They can also be the people at the front door not letting either you in, or the people who have been getting in. Suddenly they can just like, boop, turn the lights off, and you won't be able to do it. If you are going to exist as your own entity, why are you giving them an extra click away from your website?
Well,
Post everything on your website.
so have
There's no
okay.
reason to do it on Patreon, because there's no function on Patreon right now, short of maybe the discoverability, but even that, they don't offer it for you. It's not a readily available tool on Patreon. Hey, what do you call it? Support so-and-so? You can also support Sean Crystal on Inkpulp Podcast. It doesn't work that way. Similar, unlike, what do you call it? Unlike Kickstarter, that has like, hey, you supported this thing. Here are other projects that you might be interested in as well. I understand why that's an important sort of like, oh yeah, that's why you want to leverage that platform, because it kind of has a version of discoverability that may be favorable to you. You won't know for sure until you actually see the metrics behind it, But Patreon, they don't do that. Why are you giving them more? Why are you giving them a cut of your money?
Okay.
If you're going to give them any money at all, if you're going to give anybody any money at all, why give it to Patreon when they're not doing you any favors? As a matter of fact, it has every opportunity to not do you any favor.
So
Because you're one more click away from your brand, from your website. You want that ecosystem. You want everybody who swims into it to continue to swim in that ecosystem.
All right. Well, then the problem I see is I would need to be able to afford to have a website built out for this.
No. If you already have a website.
I have a landing page.
Okay.
That's what I have.
Yeah. That is what do you call it? That is probably the next step. You want to take as much away from other platform dependencies for the same exact reason that you say like Instagram can go away tomorrow. Value that.
Basically build my own Inkpulp site, which acts like Patreon.
Yeah.
Right.
Not just Patreon, but yeah, for all the other avenues that you would typically go externally with. Host your own videos on your own website. Host your own funding feature on your own website. Get as far away from dependencies, even though conceptually they could also turn the lights off on your website.
All right, well,
if they choose to.
so Inkpulp,
at the very least, not be dependent on like YouTube, not be dependent on on Patreon, not be dependent on Instagram.
So what we have now is Gumroad hosts all the instructional videos,
Sure.
but you go to my site to get to them.
Yep,
So
that's what people do, right? That's
that problematic? Because
for me, long term it is, right? Because again, it's like one more click away from you. Whatever that you
Right.
can do to narrow that delta between you and the thing that you're offering, because right now it's like Gumroad is easy-ish because it gives you the space for next to no money, right? I don't know if you're paying out as a subscription service to Gumroad as they offer out their
They
site. Yeah,
they take a small percent of a
right,
sale. But
right.
the other thing is that it's up. They're the ones that handle any problems.
What's the
When
problem?
something's not playing, like when I like with Inkpulp instruction, I would get DMs like, this isn't playing for me, and it's like, well, that's a Podia issue. I would try to help them troubleshoot it, but
Yeah,
it was a Podia issue. Most of the time, it was a user error. But so if
yeah.
I had that on my site, I have to have the time and knowledge to be able to
That's
handle
not necessarily true, right? Until you can actually say, all right, right now you're talking in theory,
right.
go figure out if it's exactly as much time as you're spending now. But now you're saying, oh, it's over there on the Gumroad side, right? If you were going to answer that question anyway, but now it's on your site, wouldn't you rather spend that energy because it all belongs to you?
I mean, I guess I gotta. I don't know.
Yeah, go figure
Because
out.
then I'm an web administrator as well. I
No,
don't
that's
know
not
that.
true. That's not true. Until you're thinking again in theory, go find out for sure. If you are going to have a plugin built onto your website that allows you to play those kinds of videos, and if it doesn't play, right, there is going to be support within whatever plugin that you decide to do. You're not building it from the ground up. You're paying a license fee or something like that to that person that allows you to have that plugin. And be like, hey, it's not playing. I'm going to reach out to them and say, hey, this thing is not playing. Similar to what you would do with Gumroad if something is not playing. Hey, something's not playing. But at the very least, you're not reaching out to another party. You're reaching out to somebody who's developed the player for you, the library
All right.
for you, but it's all yours.
So, the past month and a half of switching to Gumroad, you think was a bad idea?
I don't know if it's a bad idea. I'm not sure.
I mean,
I can't say that it's a bad idea if it's bringing you the kind of returns that you're doing. The overall umbrella point that I'm trying to make is everything should belong to you. Lessen the clicks away from Inkpulp.
sure, I get that. But I mean, if I'm gonna do that on my site, the amount of money for building this stuff, I don't have.
Well, who knows? Go figure out for sure.
Well,
Right now, it sounds like it, right? Until you have the figures sitting in front of you and saying like, oh, it only costs this much to do it.
well,
And I
that's
have
why we
100%
chose.
control,
That's, but we did that when we chose Podia.
Yeah. Yeah, you actually looked at what it would mean to have it hosted on your site versus having it hosted.
Yeah, well, also to have a site built out for all that stuff too. Yeah,
All right.
it was just money. I mean, I don't have. If I have
Makes
the
sense.
money, sure.
Makes total sense. But I guess it is to say that work towards a goal in which you no longer have those kinds of dependencies. And as much as you don't want to have a dependency on Instagram and you don't want to have a dependency on Twitter, all of it should start funneling to you. Every click that happens should be because they're reaching out to Shawn
Okay.
Crystal's Inkpulp.
Yes, and I'll tell you what. That is and has been my long-term goal.
Yeah.
It just seems like the problem I keep running into is I don't have the money to do that. I don't have the money to do that. So what do I do now? I mean, I
think you're doing fine. I just wanted to plant that seed in your head that as soon as it becomes available to you, take it off of anybody else, right? Take all the dependencies out from anybody else. Okay.
But so Patreon was a means to make some money while I'm getting there, but you're saying that's a bad idea. So
no, you're saying we are talking now about the money that it would involve for Gumroad, right?
Well,
you're saying, whoa, that would take a ton of money to put it into that space. Oh, take that stuff out of Gumroad and onto my website, right? But a pay feature on what do you call it? A pay feature on your website is not going to be that much.
But I have to build the website. Has to be built.
Yes.
For me to be able to, so that's going to be a few $1,000s.
Is it?
Yeah.
You're sure?
Well, with the people I use now, yeah.
Okay. Could be. Go figure out for sure. Just have the number sitting in front of you.
Okay.
Right? Get it away from... And if the answer is, hey, I still have to go down the Patreon route, that's nothing wrong with that. But again, the plan is to get it away from those platforms and directly onto your website. Because like you look at the value, right? You go like, hey, I'm paying X amount of percentage to Patreon every time that there's a transaction there, right? They're getting a cut because obviously we're using their website, right? You take a look at that dollar figure multiplied by X and look at the cost of how much it would cost to have it natively done on your site and go, is that sacrificable for me right now? The answer is no. Okay, again, then go down the way of Patreon. But as soon as it's something that you can afford, get it away from there. Because you want to hold on to that money as much as possible.
Right, okay.
Right? And obviously just the branding, that's like one less thing that's Patreon. Because right now Patreon is, similar to... and I don't have enough sort of like raw data sitting in front of me right now, but Patreon is sort of the go-to for people who want to kind of make money extra on the side. So that I always ask whenever I say super successful Patreon campaign, what are they offering that nobody else is offering that's out there right now? Oftentimes, 5 times, 6 times, 7 times out of 10, because there's TNA involved. Right, that's really, really super successful Patreons, But I'm trying to look at it as like, okay, from Shawn's perspective, what is he off? What can he offer that's there, right? So the route that I would take, in as far as the freebie is concerned, quote unquote freebie that you offer to social media, is the extension of the lesson. This is just talking. This is just us talking, right?
Right.
The extension of the lesson is, what's the best way? Whenever you go to like Pornhub, this is awful. Whenever you go to like Pornhub and you get these like 2 or 3 cut up minutes, right, of like the sequence, right, even before that glorious final shot, right, it's cut up in such a way where you're like, whoa, I really want to see that entire thing. At the bottom part of that screen, as a matter of fact, as the segment ends, however long the clip ends, they go like, you can see this full clip at blah, 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 blah. Right? Whatever sort of like native website or whatever.
Right.
That is a usable, scalable formula. You're taking a 5-minute sequence and showing off maybe 35 seconds of it. And saying like, if you'd like to see the full sequence, go to my Patreon, in which I blah, it's like $2 a month. And you get so much freaking content. That's how you tease that out. Use the porn formula.
Okay. All right.
What else did I have? I think that's it. That's all the notes that I took.
Okay. This is what I mean. I don't know what I'm doing. I still at 50 have no idea what I'm doing.
That's okay. It doesn't come natively to people who have never tried it out before. But you want to, for me, have people focus on you. At one point, because and this is a discussion that I had with my wife in regards to like discoverability, and I was really trying to figure out whether or not that discoverability was worth paying for. Was taking all of the crowdfunding stuff off of Indiegogo, off of Kickstarter, and putting it directly onto my website. We reached out to a developer behind the scenes, and the only thing that they had a functionality that was not available in their plugin. And we asked them, like, how much is that plugin going to cost for you guys to develop it? And they named the price, and I was like, and I go like, are you guys developing that now? And they're like, yeah, we're working up to it, but who knows how long it can take. We can accelerate it if you help to go like, this is what it would take for you to pay out of pocket in order for us to accelerate the development of that function. And I said, well, I don't need it that badly. Where are you guys projecting to? And you're like, we really can't. Maybe Q1 of Q1, Q2 to 2022. And it's like, I don't mind waiting. But it was specifically because I got sick of thinking about like, why am I going to pay out to Patreon? Why? What am I paying for their percentage cut?
You mean Indiegogo?
Either way. Or
Okay.
excuse me, not Patreon, excuse me, Kickstarter or
Right.
or
Right. Right.
Indiegogo, right? Like, what am I paying for that kind of percentage? Is it the discoverability? And if
Right.
the answer is yes, then that's worth, right? Because if I'm paying out, let's just use a number. If I'm paying out $1,000, of their cut from my campaign, which is, it isn't $1,000, it's going to be more, right? Like, based on their cut of my campaign, can I turn right around and give that $1,000 to the guys who, the promotional company that both, that we both employ, right? Can I take that money and get 3x out of it? If the 3x, if what I'm getting out of that $1,000, again, that's just a round number that I'm paying out to either Kickstarter or Indiegogo, right? If I'm paying out based on discoverability, that's what discoverability costs me, right? And I'm getting 2x, $2,000, right? Then great. But if I can take that same exact $1,000, put that thing on my website and get 3x, 2.5x, that's a no-brainer, man. I take it off of Indiegogo. I take it off of Kickstarter.
So you're eventually going to do that when that plugin's available?
Conceptually, yeah.
Okay.
There is no reason to give somebody else my money.
I guess, right. So I guess I could look into something like Squarespace to see if I could build my own, like, page for...
Yeah.
that would act as a Patreon, but it's an inkpulp.com page.
Yeah. Do you
And
have
then-
inkpulp.com right now?
Yeah, I have inkpulp.com and inkpulpinstruction.com.
Thank God. Okay. There you go. You're already 10 steps ahead of a bunch of different people I know.
What do you mean? Because I
There's a
own
bunch
it?
of, like, there was a lot of independent press, small press guys who I'm like, do you have that .com? For your book, for your studio, for your anything?
Right. Well, like I said, the long-term goal was to have inkpulp.com as like the home of everything, and a link to Inkpulp Instruction on my Inkpulp page that took you to Inkpulp Instruction.
So there is no inkpulp.com right now?
I own it, but there's nothing. No.
Oh, yeesh. Shawn, you're fucking killing me.
Well, but Eric, the reason is I've never built a website, and the people I had to do it, I was looking at like three to $5,000.
There's no. I'll set you up with a guy. That's bullshit. It's bullshit. It's not going to cost $3,000. They're ripping you off. Give me $3,000. Like, it's so fucking stupid. It's so stupid. I'll set you up with a guy.
All right, but if it's something I can do, I mean, I can
Yes, you
figure it
can
out.
do it. It's literally just like drag and drop. It's the easiest thing. It's just the time that it takes in order to go.
Right, but can I build one that will act as like what I could do on Patreon?
No,
where
but at the very least, you're going to have a website that just has inkpulp.com so people can go there and see your work, right? You don't even have that.
Mm-mm.
No, yeah, that's not acceptable. Don't be dumb.
I'm trying. Man. I'm trying not to be dumb.
Just go register SeanCrystal.com. Go register Inkpulp.com, Go register Sean Crystal Art, whatever it is, like that that you want people to be like, you want that SEO, right? The discoverability function on Google to point to you, not to Instagram, not to Twitter or whatever it is. You want it to point to your website. You want to optimize for your brand 100%, always and all the time. And if it means just opening up a, functioning.com for Inkpulp, right? Even if it means it's just bare bones right now with the promise of features to come later, then okay. But establish that now.
How much would you expect to pay for a base, like what you're talking about is like a landing page?
You can look it up. It's like I use Wix now. Wix is freaking awesome.
But who builds it for you?
I had somebody else, but it didn't cost $3,000.
Right, that's what. But I'm asking, like, what sort of figure should I be looking at?
Oh shit, I don't know. I can set you up with a guy.
$1,000?
Probably less than.
Okay.
So you're just paying for time. You're not necessarily paying for like $3,000. That's outrageous. Get out of here. What are they doing? Are they like, what's that staff look like? They're asking for $3,000. Like how? But like also, what's a turnaround time in $3K? Right? Is it like 6 months? Is it like 2 months?
No. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's
If
within
it's
a
like,
month.
we'll set it up for you tomorrow, and I'm like, $3K, hell yeah, I'll give you $3,000 so it's done by tomorrow. But if it's $3K for 3 weeks, F that. They're ripping you off.
Okay.
Especially because the way these templates work on something like Wix, it's so easy now. Yeah, it won't be, what do you call it?
What is Wix? Like a Squarespace?
Similar, yeah.
Okay.
But their functionality is a little bit different, right? Their
But
templates are...
you don't build on Wix. You have someone doing that for you.
Yes, but I can build on Wix.
You know how.
Yes. It's so dummy-proof.
Okay. Okay.
Similar to, what do you call it? Similar to Squarespace. Squarespace is like, here's your, you've registered your website, you registered your domain name. Here are templates that you can use. What kind of look are you looking for? And they literally give you everything. Does that cost $3,000? Maybe,
No.
if you don't have the time to do it.
Right.
But I don't think so.
Okay.
Okay. So, how did we get off on that tangent? Right. You were saying like, oh, I'd literally have to pay somebody to go build that thing for me. Yes, but it's not as much money as you think. And number two, the more important one is that starts the ball rolling as far as like where people can find you and your stuff. Right now, it's kind of like all over the place, right?
Right. That was another thing I forgot to mention is I do feel like it's all over the place.
Yeah, it's decentralized in a way, but at the very least, on that landing page on inkpulp.com, once you get that page set up, you can link to those different places that you have avenues to. So for now, again, decentralized, but eventually the goal is to make everything all at once on your website.
Okay.
Is that the kind of mentorship you're looking for?
Yeah. I wish I had it earlier in life, so it'd be a little easier to understand or to build on, I guess. But yeah. Okay.
No, it's okay. I mean, I understand the necessity of decentralizing it because a lot of different places offer quote unquote free, and that makes a lot of sense. You take a look at you take a look at what's available to you, and you go like, okay, what am I getting out of these things? Number one, probably financial, right? It's free. Okay, so I don't pay a cent. They're going to take money out of every sale that comes off of the episodes that I offer. The percentage is a small price to pay so that I have opportunity in this space. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. But when it comes to like art, when it comes to like where people can find you, Instagram is a nice discoverability. Twitter is a nice discoverability, but always point them back to the thing that you want them to pay attention to, which is what your point was to begin with. Yeah, sure, you're going to do the little thing for free, but the additive that I wanted to say is use the Pornhub model. Don't show little snippets of it. If it's going to be 35 seconds, if it's going to be like 40 seconds, whatever it is, do it in such a way where it's montagey. Do it in such a way where it's teasy, right? Get almost near the end into that beautiful, glorious shot, and then go, want to see more? Here's where you can go.
Okay.
Go to my Patreon. Go to my blog. Go to my...
Okay.
You almost have to be a carnival barker about it.
I can do that.
Can you?
I can. If I have to, I will. Well, I mean, I don't know that I can be a carnival barker, but I can be more vocal.
Yeah. Just be almost disgustingly shill about it. Yeah. Because you have to. You have to. Again, your audience is not like the dummies in our circle. They're just like, oh my God, Shawn, blah, blah, blah. Oh my God, that's so annoying.
Right.
That's so like base. That's so blah. They're not your customers. They're not going to pay you anything.
No,
Who cares about their fucking opinion?
That's why everyone gets tired of me shouting Inkpulp instruction on streams or podcasts I'm on.
Yeah,
because I have no problem bringing it up all the time.
Yeah, they're not the customer.
Right.
Right. Who cares about them? Let them, like whatever they eat doesn't make you shit. Pay attention to your thing.
Right. Exactly.
All right. That's my mentorship of the decade. Okay. I'm not doing that ever again. It's freaking exhausting.
It's exhausting for you?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I hate it so much. That's why anytime you text, Eric, should I do this or this?
Why do you hate it?
Mute.
What do you hate about
How
it?
do I exit this conversation?
Oh, all right.
No, it again, I'm not in the headspace for it because I don't think that you and I are not equal, right? So I don't ever think of myself as a mentor. I don't ever think of myself as like, hey, this thing is going to add that added value, you know? And then I start talking and I start thinking, we start discussing. I'm all like, wow, that's never been, you never thought about that. Not that I'm diminishing you, not that me going like, oh my gosh, why are you such a dummy? It makes me realize, oh, because people don't have the experience that I have. Don't have this sort of like, oh, they've never gone this path before, or nobody's ever introduced this idea into their head before. Not even just the actionable, but just the idea of like, hey, minimize that delta between you and your ecosystem, between you and your fan base, right? Or like people get into their own heads about like, oh, is this gonna get annoying? Is this going to get a little bit too repetitive and blah 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 blah? It's not that. It's got nothing to do with that. One of the things that I love watching on YouTube, and I'm not saying this is an immediate one-to-one, are these guys who are like financial gurus, you know, who end up talking about how they got like a gazillion, you know, this is their mansion and this is their cars and this is their blah. That's not what I'm suggesting anybody to do because that's a scam. That's a scheme, right? What you're looking at is the formula. How are they doing that? How are they getting so many people involved in this thing that enough so that you can take advantage of them? Again, let me be clear and deliberate. You're not trying to take advantage of them. What they are doing is going to the base of what people's wants and hopes and dreams are, which is like, whoa, I can get that. You have to find a way to communicate to that side of them, compel that side and be like, yeah, and then you start thinking about your target audience. Who can I do that to? Who can I compel into paying attention to this thing that I want? In those people's cases, probably in those scammers' cases, probably the people like the get rich schemes or the, you know, again the financial guru. They're all sort of like tickling this same sort of nerve, which is people probably making some kind of decent enough money or not a ton of money. And they want to take their $100 and make it into $300 within 3 months or whatever it is, you know, which is more often than not impossible. But that's what you're looking for, an audience that your material will speak to the most,
Right.
And you talk to them almost on an emotional space, almost in an emotional way, and not like crying, but I mean like you go and tickle that particular nerve. Cool.
Yeah.
It's exhausting talking about this shit.
Why is it exhausting for you?
I don't know, man. It's probably because I rarely ever talk about it. It's engaging a part of my brain.
Oh.
That I don't often like, oh yeah, I'll talk about that and blah, 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 blah. I never think about it.
All right,
I think what's less exhausting is when somebody who's an expert in this space or somebody that I reach out to and I'm all ears about it. I'm like, whoa, that's invigorating. And so I'm thinking, oh, that's probably the same kind of chemical that's being released into people's brains whenever I talk about it. And so I engage my empathetic side, which I rarely do because I'm dead inside. So I engage my empathetic side and be like, oh yeah, okay, that's the same feeling I get when somebody tries to talk to me about how to make a breakthrough in the Asian, you know, or in Japan or wherever else that I can distribute my comic to. I'm like, ooh, how do I do that? You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. We're over.
Well,
I'm gonna play this outro.
Okay.
Ready? I don't know what I'm doing. I'm gonna press this button. Here we are. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Look at this. Whee.
You